All right. Hello and welcome back to Content and Conversations. Happy Monday. I hope that you all had an amazing weekend. And today we are going to drill down into the content part of content and conversation. So if you have been following along the last few weeks, first of all, if you haven't been, go back. Start at the beginning. You're not too far. This is episode number 4. So you have plenty of time to go back and find out where we are, the conversations we're having, all of those different things, but to also get caught up, which leads us to which leads us to where we are today. So I am actually going to track down, make sure that we are live in all of the places. It looks like we are not. Before I keep going, because I'm really excited about this conversation. Here we go. I got you. I'm just making sure that we are public in all of the places. So good. All right, game on. Let's do this. So again, what I want to talk about specifically is the content part of content and conversation. So episode 1, we had a really great conversation around, hey, Nicole. Yes. So this is number 4. So you'll be in really great shape if you go back to the beginning. But we talked about the sales experience. We talked about sales mindset, or just sales energy in general. And then last week we talked about the 4 C's of connection marketing. But today I want to talk about very specifically content, the content part of content and conversations. Hey, Mary, how are you? And next week we will drill down deeper into conversation. So the way that we approach content marketing inside of the Connection Agency is that content marketing is an opportunity for you to actually do 3 of the 4 C's in the 4 C's of connection marketing, right? It allows you to create connection. It allows you to connect. It allows you to create relationships, and it allows you to actually convert. So you can do all of those things with your content. And so you're like, that's amazing, Ryan. I love doing that. However, that feels overwhelming. Like, what do I do with all of the things if it can do all of the above, right? If it can create that connection that we're looking to create, get people's attention, create demand, but then if it can also really help us build relationships a little bit further, and then of course it allows us to convert. How do we do all of those things at one time? So I'm going to walk through the 3 types of content that we create in the agency, and I'm going to tell you my approach, literally the formula that I follow. I have it like on this cute little note right here for those of you that are watching us live, and I'm going to walk you through all of that together today. So if you have questions, drop them in the comments. For those of you listening on the podcast, you can come back on any social platform. We love to chat and answer all of the questions. So let's talk about the 3 different types of content we should be creating. First and foremost is authority content, right? This was how-to content for many years. People love how-to content, but that's evolved, right? So how-to content's gotten a little old. There's a lot of how-to content on the internet. There's a lot of places to learn how to do something. So I have shifted from talking about how-to content to authority building content. How do I position myself as an expert in what I do? And so sometimes it isn't how-to, right? Sometimes that's stories. Sometimes that's social posts or social proof. Sometimes that's explaining how you're helping a client do ABC, XYZ. So authority building content is really like, how does somebody stumble across Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, wherever they find me, and realize this person knows what they are talking about? And so again, we do this a lot of ways. Like, I still do traditional how-to content, right? Because what I do, what I teach, what we do inside of the agency, a lot of the how-to is still really valuable. But then I also do a lot of storytelling in our how-to, right? Like, I'll tell you, I was on the phone with a CEO of a 7-figure business. This is the problem that we're having, and this is how we solved it, right? All of that helps me build authority. You're like, oh, cool. People with $1 million businesses trust her. Oh, cool. She was able to help somebody solve that same problem. So then you're like, okay, this person is an authority. So you can use all of the platforms to build authority building content, but it's really deciding, what do you want to be known for, right? What do you want to be known for? What do you want people to know about you, think about you? When they think your name, what do they associate with that, right? For me, it's sales. I started teaching sales back in 2018. So when people think of sales, specifically social selling online, they think of me. It is something I have been building for years, very intentionally. So authority building content is something that will not change as your business grows. So even if you're just getting started and you're signing your first couple of clients, great. You can start building authority building, writing, or creating authority building content. Somebody who's making $1 million a month, you still want to continue to build authority building content. We want people to feel like they trust us. They feel like, okay, cool, this person knows what they're talking about. They get me. They understand me. That's really what authority building content is. Do they know what they're talking about? Do they know me, like me, understand me? Do I feel seen, heard, understood? Is there a pattern of consistency here, right? Because remember, sales is about certainty. And so I want people to be certain that you are an authority. And so continuing to do this. This is one of the hardest things for visionaries to do. Authority building content is one of the hardest things for visionaries to do because we get bored so fast. You're like, sweet baby Jesus, if I have to record another podcast about blah, 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 I'm going to lose my marbles, right? But we need consistency. We cannot assume that people see all of the content that we put out in the world, right? I mean, I put out a shit ton of content. There's no way that people read all of it. But what I do know and do believe, when somebody finds me, discovers me, refers me, introduces me, and somebody scrolls through my feed, they are going to very quickly know what I am an authority at, because I say the same thing over and over again. That consistency is like, oh, I trust her. Or if I'm changing my perspective, I explain why. And it really creates trust in a strong and powerful way. So when you think through, how do I create an authority content? We first have to decide, what do I want to be an authority at? What do I want to be seen as? Okay, so that is your authority building content. This is the old school how to. This is the know, like, and trust factor. This is like, I know my shit. And you want to make sure that you are creating authority building content every single day, right? The more authority building content that you have, the better, in my experience. Okay, the second type of content is connection content. Right? It's connection content. Why do people know you, like you, trust you? And this is the human stuff. And a lot of people get really uncomfortable with this because they're like, I don't want to be a personal brand. I'm sorry. In 2023, you do not have an option but to be a personal brand. Sorry, right? I would have told you something differently a few years ago, and it may look differently a few years down the road. But today, as I am recording this, you have no chance to be a personal brand. Because if I have three people who do the exact same thing, and I have to make a choice between those three people, who am I going to choose? I'm going to choose the person I feel a connection with, right? I'm going to choose a person that I feel connected to, that we have something in common, that there's some similarities. I can see myself in their story. There's something about them that I really like, right? And when I find that connection, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole and I'm going to binge their content. I'm going to go from social media to their podcast, and then from their podcast to their email list. And then I'm going to consume everything that they do because I just really feel connected to them. And so when they make an offer, naturally, I want to buy. Right? But this is the personal part of social media, right? This is the personal part of, and you don't have to share anything you don't feel comfortable with, but I think it's really important that we are showing our hearts. We're showing who we are as people, that we're showing the things that we value, that we show the things that are important to us, because people are making buying decisions based on that. Right. I made an example last week when I was going through the 4 C's of content marketing of what's happening with Twitter and with Threads and Elon Musk versus Mark Zuckerberg, right? People are making a choice of what social media platform to hang out on based on who's the CEO of the company, right? Like, you didn't even know the CEO of most of the technology companies that we were using 5 years ago. The market has shifted dramatically. And that is what people are looking for. Do my values align with this person? This is a lot of the fear that the boomers have of Gen Z, because Gen Z is very values driven, right? They need to make sure that there is alignment. And so we want to make sure that we are showing who we are as human beings. So I do this probably only 2 or 3 times a week, right? I told you, authority building content every damn day, right? Personal content, connection content, who you are as a human, a few times a week. Right? I just posted a post today on Facebook where it's a picture of me in like a backwards hat on a boat. And I talk about, being the best version of myself and really leading into being more of me and being all of me and all of the good ways. Right? So I really lean into that in a meaningful way. And I'll maybe do that 2 or 3 times a week. I'll post a picture of my kids and explain, I have a daughter who's 4 and she is a mini me. God love her. But, that's the reason I show up every single day, is those tiny humans, right? Or I'll share about my own personal and professional development journey, because I want people to know they're not alone in their quest for being the best version of themselves, right? I do that very intentionally. So anybody else who's on that personal growth, that personal development journey is like, ooh, she's on a journey too. I want to learn more about her. So, I don't do it to manipulate people, but it is intentional, right? I want people to feel connected to me. My very first business, my very first iteration of my business, I was a sales coach for new entrepreneurs. Many of you might remember the Uncensored Sales Days. It was a really incredible time in my career, but I did my first $30,000 launch wearing my 5-week-old. All right. That baby is 4. But when she was 5 weeks old, like literally strapped onto my body, cell phone camera in my face, I launched that business or that offer. And so you imagine, I brought in a bunch of moms, even though I wasn't marketing to moms. I never once said that I had a program for moms. I just happened to be a mom teaching business. And so people were connected to that. So over the years, I've accumulated a lot of women who are trying to balance being a mom and being a business owner. I never market to that audience. I don't talk to that audience. It's not my only audience. It's not that I don't love you, right? For my moms and my business owners, but it is because of the personal stuff that I share that people are like, ooh, tell me more about that, right? So I was even a guest on a summit somewhat recently and, was kind of telling my business building journey and all this stuff. And the girl asked me, she's like, how do you balance being a mom and running a business. And I still think it's wild that people still ask me that question, but they do all of the time. So that's connection content, right? So we've talked about authority building content every single day, connection content, a couple days a week, right? Belief shifting content. The third type of content is belief shifting content, right? Your ideal client has some level of belief, some story about what you do. Right? They just do. They might love it. They might hate it. They might think it's not for them. I mean, whatever stories they're telling themselves, it's our job to give them a new story. Right? It is our jobs as marketers to give them a new story to tell. This might be the most important content you create, right? Authority content might be the most content you create, right? The connection content's important because it feels vulnerable. But this like belief shifting content being like, hey, listen, I know that you think this. I used to think that too. Now I think this. This is what this has created for me. And this is why you should come with me is really, really powerful. Right? Because everyone, they're seeing your content, right? Maybe if they're part of your audience and they're like, that's not for me, or I don't know if that's going to work for me, or I've tried that before and it didn't work, or, I was in a coaching program where they taught that. I already know how to do it, right? Like we all have beliefs. As you scroll through social media, hear yourself talk about what you see when you scroll. Your ideal client has that same story. So it's our job to give them a new story, right? It's our job to give them a new story. You might believe that outbound is dead, right? Like outbound marketing is the worst thing in the world. The number of people that believe that to be true is wild. But the truth of the matter is that outbound is a multi-million, like 9-figure industry of tools and resources to do cold calling, cold emailing, outreach on social media, email list building. I mean, it is a huge effing business, but there are still people on the internet that's like outbound doesn't work. Not true. Right? So I spend a lot of my time shifting that belief. If you think it's not true because you've got some spammy shit in your inbox, so you think it doesn't work, but actually, I used to think that too. This is what I did. This is how I learned how to do it. And look what it's created for me. Right? We literally just had a client the other day sign 2 new clients using our outbound system. Right? Stranger to cash in the bank. The shit works, but I have to convince people of that every single day because what's in their inbox is garbage. So that is my biggest challenge. And I'm just sharing that with you so you can think of like, what's your biggest challenge? What are those beliefs that people have about what you do? And how can you continue to shift those beliefs? And that can be about what you do or about who they are. Right. So people have a lot of beliefs around outbound, right? But do they also believe like, I'm not, maybe our people believe they're not ready to be a personal brand. That's not true. Most of our clients are already personal brands, right? But like I'm constantly having to shift those beliefs of what it looks like every single day. So again, authority creating content, probably the most volume. Connection is the one that's the most meaningful and vulnerable, but that belief shifting is really where the magic is. Because again, remember, there's a lot of how-to content in the world. There's a lot of people telling us a lot of different things. So how do we then take that and really shift those beliefs? So when we make an offer, when we connect with somebody new, when we reach out to them and say, hey, listen, I want to invite you to this event, come check out this thing, let's get on the phone and have a conversation, that they want to talk to you, right? Because you are constantly shifting their beliefs. Nothing like makes my heart happier than when people reach out to me. The number of DMs I get on any given day, people telling like, hey, I look at outbound completely different because the way that you talk about it, because you're so focused on relationship building. And I'm like, yes, it's working. Like, yes, it's working. But again, our visionary brains have to be able to stay consistent enough to actually do that. So that's why I give you these frameworks to work within, because you've got a lot of latitude, a lot of leash to run and be wild and do the things, but really come back to the basics of what is my intention here? What am I creating? How am I going to be successful? Right. So we've talked about a few things, but I'm going to kind of put a few extras on the back of this. So we talked about authority. We talked about connection. We talked about belief shifting. We talked a little bit about storytelling. Right now, storytelling is hot, right? Like storytelling is the thing. Tell me what you're going to tell me in a story, and I'm way more likely to pay attention to it. Okay. So this doesn't have to be personal stories. They can be business stories, but any time that you can weave in a story, your content is going to be stickier. I promise. Right? We are currently testing a lot of long form and short form content. And again, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even I would have given you a different viewpoint on this. But what we're seeing a lot of success with right now with our clients and with our own content is a good mix of both, right? That short form content is getting a lot of engagement. It's getting a lot of interaction. It's getting a lot of shares. And that's important, right? That tells the algorithm that, hey, people like this. Right. But then we also have our long form content for that person who's really genuinely deciding, do I want to take do I want to do I want to make a buying decision, right? Am I prepared to make a buying decision? Do I want to make an investment with this person? So we do a really good mix of short form and long form content for that reason. The short form content is really, I understand that it's not sales content. I understand that it's not designed to convert. That's not the point, right? It's designed to get attention. It's designed to feed the algorithm. It's designed to sometimes cause controversy, to share my beliefs in a meaningful way. That's really my point with our short form content. And then our long form content really then fits into those three other buckets, right? Authority, connection, and belief shifting. Where does video play into this, right? What I'm talking about here today, guys, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're video, it doesn't matter if you're on a podcast. It doesn't matter if you're, if you're writing your content, it doesn't matter if you're sharing it via email, it works across all platforms. So I believe that what I'm talking about here today actually will work regardless of the platform. And the platform that's going to work is the one that you like the most. Right? So many people ask me, like, I'm not sure, like there's so much drama over picking a platform. And I'm like, no, my friends. No, pick the platform that you are most comfortable on. There's a reason why I'm here with you live today. Live video, I like it. I'm good at it. My team never has to wait on me to produce anything. If I'm live, they're like, great. We've got what we need from her. So this works well for me. This is a format that works well for me. And then for those of you that are listening on the podcast, you don't like live video. You don't want to watch live video. You don't have time for live video. You're working right now. You're eating lunch. You're doing something else. But you'll for sure throw your headphones on and go for a walk with me in your ears, probably not on 2-speed, and listen to me on the podcast, right? We do that intentionally. So that's really about like finding what works best for you. So I'm going to tell you, this is my content plan. And again, for those of you live, you can see this cute little note card. I have note cards on my desk. I take a lot of notes on note cards. It makes it so I can throw them away. But I think on them. There's 3 of them. So what is my content plan? What do I do? We post somewhere 5 to 6 times a day. Do I think it's required? No. Does it work well for us? Yes. Is it converting into sales? Absolutely. Right. This is kind of the Gary Vee model of like more is more. The more eyeballs, the more impressions, the more time I see you, I can create, know, like, and trust faster. For some people, you're like, holy shit, Ryan, that feels daunting. I get it, right? I really do understand it. But once I break it down, it won't feel as overwhelming. So every single day I create 2 to 3 short form posts, right? I keep a notes app on my phone that anytime I listen to something, see something, think of something, when I'm on a walk, when I'm in the shower, whenever I get ideas, I just jot them down on my phone, right? I have a notes app. That's where it is. So whenever I'm like, okay, we're ready for a short form piece of content for the day, I can go find it, post it. I use the little placard on Facebook. If you need to on Instagram, create your little, your cute little graphic and go. So half of my content is short form that requires no time to create, right? And so then I do 3 pieces of long form content every single day. I do 2 sales driven posts, and then I do like 1 more give, value, motivational post every day. So the sales posts are sometimes actually asking for cash. Sometimes they're inviting people to an event. Sometimes so sales is just that there's an ask. I'm using the word sales, but you don't actually have to be asking for money. So if you're somebody that launches and your sales posts are inviting people to your launch, or inviting people to your webinar, inviting them to your challenge, inviting them to your summit, whatever you're inviting them to, right? To me, that's a sales post. I'm making an ask. Nicole, great. I see you, and I'll come back to that. Thank you. So I do 2 of those a day, and then I do more, 1, just give value, share my thoughts, no ask, like total value bomb. How do I do this without spending 47 years creating content? I voice memo everything. I voice memo it out and then transcribe it, and then it becomes written content. So instead of sitting here and thinking, yes, Nicole, I see you. So that is how I get through a lot. I take a walk most mornings or get in some kind of workout. And in that walk, I'm just constantly recording content. I'm doing my hair and I'm like, ooh, this idea, that idea. Like I'm just constantly thinking about it. And then I transcribe it, make it pretty, and push it out. And then my team takes it and repurposes it. So most of the time I'm creating originally, and then my team takes it and reiterates it. Because I get a lot of questions around like, how many people are creating this constant monster that you have, Rye? If you're watching me on Facebook and LinkedIn, that's me. On my personal profiles, if you're in a group, if you're on our email list, that sort of stuff is definitely coming from my team. So Nicole, live on LinkedIn, had a really great question. Do you use stories? And the truth is, I really don't. If Instagram was my jam, I would. My 2 primary platforms, Facebook is probably about 80% and then 20% LinkedIn. I don't get great, it just stories are a piece of content that take me way too long to create, Nicole. And so I don't do it. We have clients who do it. We have clients who have a lot of success with it. We actually help our clients create them. And sometimes we do, but it is not a consistent part of our strategy. It is just something, if I'm in the mood, if I think of something, if I get an idea, if I feel inspired, I put it out there, but it is not part of our consistent strategy at this point in the game. And again, it's because most of our content on Instagram is just there for the sake of being there. It's a placeholder. I don't spend time there. I don't engage there. If you jump into my inbox over there, you're probably talking to my team. They're amazing. They're not gonna lie to you and bullshit you and tell you they're talking to me, but it's not my content or it's not my platform of choice. So I love that question, Nicole. Again, sometimes on Facebook, I'll throw up a story if I feel compelled, if I have something interesting to say, but I really don't use them very often. So I love that question. So back to our sales plan, right? So 2 sales posts, 1 motivational post, 2 to 3 short posts every single day. That's primarily on Facebook for us. And then on LinkedIn, I probably post about twice a day. And then we try to do 2 to 3 short form videos. And that is something my team does for me. Like I record, they edit, caption, and post for me. So that is something that is definitely fueled by the content machine that is my team. And I love them with my whole heart. But again, what the majority of our revenue is coming from, like what I'm personally posting on Facebook right now, and then the conversations that we're getting into very intentionally. So that was a lot on content. If you have questions, I want to hear them. Again, feel free to reach out to me on whatever social platform you hang out on. If you're here with us live today, thank you for hanging out. For those of you listening to the podcast, we appreciate you all so much. And then next week, I'm going to talk about conversations, right? So we talked about content, we're going to talk about conversations. And if there's anything you guys want us to cover here on the show, we would love to hear from y'all. Have a great day. Talk soon. See you next week.